So my name is Meneses. I'm one of the assistant directors for the college, for the University of California here at Davis. And we are the host of this particular webinar. And I am assistant director for the Transfer Opportunity Program. And I use he, him pronouns. And today I'm joined by my amazing student workers, Kelly and Carolina, and my amazing coworker, Leo, from the College of Letters and Science. You'll get to know our amazing student workers the next couple of slides during our student panel. So start thinking about those questions and just be mindful that we are going to use the Q&A feature on our webinar to collect the questions that you have. We're not going to use the chat besides to provide some links or kind of drop some links in the chat. So just keep in mind to use the Q&A to submit your questions, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go over a little bit of, or Leo's going to go a little bit over the College of Letters and Science, and then I'm going to take over to talk about preparing for admissions. And then I'll host the student panel, and then we'll allocate some time towards the end for some Q&A, and then I'll include some upcoming events and resources for you all and ways to get in touch with us. So with that being said, I'll pass it over to my colleague, Leo.
Awesome. Okay. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Leo Alamio. I'm the Assistant Director for Student Engagement and Success in the College of Letters and Science. And today I have the privilege to tell you a little bit about our college, what an amazing place it is, what an amazing place Davis is, and answer some questions that you might have about coming here, about the opportunities you'll have here. So let's start off with the next slide. All right. So y'all are thinking about UC Davis as a whole. So kind of the way that we're set up here is that we have the main university, that's campus, you attending UC Davis, in Aggie. Within that, it's broken up a little bit. So we have 4 academic colleges and then 1 school that are the components of UC Davis. So no, I know I'm dating myself by the reference, but if you've read or seen Harry Potter, you think Hogwarts, and then you think the houses. That's pretty much set up here. So our 4 academic colleges, those are College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences. So you can imagine things like animal science, environmental policy, that's in there. College of Biological Sciences, as the name implies, everything to do with biology. Then our College of Engineering, which has all of our engineering majors. And then last but not least, my favorite, College of Letters in Science, which holds the most majors, the most interdisciplinary majors. Next slide. All right. So who are we? So LNS, College of Letters and Science. We're the liberal arts and science college at UC Davis. So our key highlight is the interdisciplinary nature of our programs. So what we mean by that is how interconnected all of our disciplines are. So we have humanities majors, arts, social sciences, math and physical science. We have majors ranging from cognitive science, English to physics, to international relations, to ethnic studies, to economics, so much more. All of those just within one house, one college. Campus-wide, the student to faculty ratio is 21:1. In LMS, it's only 16:1. So 1 faculty for every 16 students. But then a lot of our majors even gets down to less than 10 students per each faculty. So you can get a lot of special attention in your discipline. We have over 100 majors and minors combined. Our freshest, newest major is data science. Our newest minors are medical humanities and data and society. And with our majors, you have 3 degree options. So Bachelor of Arts would be one, an AB degree, Bachelor of Science, a BS degree. And then if you're double majoring in an art and a science, then you'd be eligible for a Bachelor of Arts and Science degree. And not only are our options diverse, our students as well. So we have students representing all 50 states, 20 plus countries. Over a third of our students are first gen, so first in their families to attend college. And almost almost a third are from underrepresented backgrounds. Next slide. All right. So we are the largest college at UC Davis. So approximately 14,000 of the university students have a major in LMS, which really makes our student faculty ratio all that more impressive. Our approach to education is that there are countless opportunities for research, internships, and more. I'll go over that in a minute. And then you'll learn about those opportunities by expanding your access to information. So check out all of our majors, our minors, follow our socials, and you'll always be aware of the latest research and latest events in LMS. So on the slide, if you're on a laptop, feel free to take a picture of the QR code. That first code on the left will take you to our PDF of all of our majors and minors and brief descriptions of them. The middle one is our Instagram. The one on the right is our TikTok. But if you're on your phone, just look up those handles, follow us. That is the best way to stay up to date with what's going on here and what opportunities await you coming here. Next slide. All right. So there is so much diversity in our studies in our college. You really get to build and choose your own path and personalize it for yourself. So I have a couple minors up here on the screen. So let's talk about data and society, which might be a minor you've never heard of. So courses in this discipline teach students to use computational methods to explore, manipulate, analyze numeric and textual data with critical awareness of the choices made in that data collection and the implication of all those issues for analytic outcomes. Or maybe you're leaning towards something like medical humanities. So that minor equips students to take on big questions of how should we care for the sick? How are diseases understood in different cultures? The minor also cultivates self-awareness in the sense of both the ability to empathize with other people while maintaining the clarity of our own limitations that comes with cultural humility. Or finally, maybe professional writing is more you're seeing. So that minor offers advanced instruction in writing and editing, as well as guidance in adapting to new technologies, new modes of discourse, and new rhetorical situations. So students in this minor learn how to write, design, and edit effectively in multiple forms, including print, mixed media, and a variety of professional jobs. Next slide. Right. So opportunities to learn beyond the classroom. So Davis University is so much more than just what you do in a seat in a classroom in a lecture hall. It's about all of the opportunities and experiences that are at your fingertips about being at such a great institution. So in case you didn't know, UC Davis is an R1 research university. So without getting too much into details, R1 universities are doctoral universities, so PhD, with very high research activity. All of your faculty are doing some kind of research. So in addition to being there with you in the classroom, teaching you new subjects, they're also in a laboratory, in the field, out creating surveys, out in archives, gathering new information and creating new knowledge. So I don't know about you, but definitely when I was going through undergrad, I didn't really think research was a thing, or at least I always thought it was just being in a lab coat, being in a laboratory with the goggles, with the chemicals, with the beakers. But it's so much more than that, right? You could be majoring in English and political science and psychology and still have some access to research. Next slide. So a big question to ask yourself is, am I interested in research? Because it's more than you think. It's also literature reviews. It's data collection and analysis. It's also an honors thesis. So perhaps most importantly, involving yourself in research and other experiential learning beyond the classroom allows you to gain life skills, professional experience that will be transferable after graduation. Because you're here in college not just to learn in classes, but to develop in ways that will benefit you in the post-college. So you'll have a lot of opportunities that you have to reach out for and take advantage of, but they exist. They are there. Next slide. Right. So with experiential learning, it can also mean internships, fieldwork, community service, study abroad, mentorship, volunteer, and paid work. These are all the things that build out your resume, your cover letter, that make you a great interviewer because you have a lot of examples to pull from. So college, university is so much more than just a GPA, than just the experience in the classroom. It's about everything else that you have access to that you take advantage of. And Davis is positioned amazingly for internships, being so close to the state capital, but then also having federal opportunities. If you're wanting to work in a nonprofit space or an NGO space, there's a lot of opportunities to get involved, regardless of what your major is, as long as you look for them. Next slide. So I want to personalize this a little bit. So I want to talk to you about Vin. So Vin was a transfer student from De Anza. Having gotten to know him, he shared a story of getting accepted at UC Davis. And as soon as he did, he started a spreadsheet of all the things that he wanted to do. So he already had his major in mind. He knew he wanted to major in statistics, but he also wanted to major in theater and dance, which are all the things that we have in LNS. As a transfer student, he was packing everything into 2 years, and he wanted to be really intentional about it because he knew how much careful planning that would take. He was quick to start. So along the way, through his major courses, through the first minor, he also discovered an interest in Asian American studies. So he figured he wanted to increase his understanding of the world and the preparation that he was getting here at Davis. So he added Asian American studies. He helped to actively build a community of students among transfer students. He became an event photographer, healing ballroom dance, so much more. We have a profile on him on our Letters in Science magazine. So for Vin, he was expecting it to be a bumpier ride. So reading the quote on the screen, to get to where I am now, but it's been smooth. There is so much in place here to help you succeed. You don't have to take on the burden. Well, so I want to emphasize this story. If there's nothing else that you take from this section, is that there is opportunity and there is the support to take advantage of that opportunity here in LS, here in Davis. Next slide. All right. And what other ways does that support look like? So within LNS, we offer comprehensive and holistic advising. So you'll have advisors for your college requirement of LNS, advisors for your major, whichever you end up declaring. Within those major departments, you'll have faculty advisors, so professors who can take on an academic mentorship role, guide you in the department and the discipline to graduation. But then if you have graduate school aspirations, either a master's or a PhD, they're an excellent resource for that as well. And then you have fellow peers. So many of our offices hire and train peer advisors, so fellow students who are taking the classes that you're in, that are going through that transition, have gone through that transition to Davis, and can offer helpful pieces of advice. We also have mentorship programs for first-gen students and dedicated college mental health counselors and case managers. So we have those embedded within the college. Since we're so large, it's really important for us to be able to connect students individually and have a warm handoff to these support services. So that is LNS. It is an amazing place. A wide variety of majors and minors exist on here. I definitely recommend you check out our socials, Instagram, TikTok, but then our websites. So in case you want to learn more about future majors that you've never heard of, make sure to log in there. The link is in the chat. So I'll pass it back on to Fabian.
Thank you so much, Leo, for that insightful information. I want to give you a preview all of what we consider a selective major. So after this, I'll go over a little bit about the admissions requirements, so just stay tuned. A selective major requires additional criteria. So you may hear the term high demand, capped, or screening majors. They all pretty much mean the same thing, is that that particular area of study requires you to pay more attention because it requires a specific set of courses or a specific GPA in those courses, or a specific timeline that you have to complete these requirements by. Specifically at Davis, here's an overview of the selective majors. I'm going to highlight a bit of majors that are considered selective in the College of Letters and Science in the next couple slides, but I'll have our amazing student workers add the link to our selective major page so you could check it out after this webinar. As a preview, if you're working towards a math major, are required to take the full calculus series, linear algebra, and also differential equations. And then the group GPA needs to be at least a 3.0. So the way I want you to think about it is um, you basically have to have a 3.0 across the entire group. So that means B's across the board. Or if you get a C, that means you have to get an A in a different class to kind of leverage out or level out that particular GPA in that series. Data science is another great example. So is a selective major. And for this particular area, you have to have at least a 3.2 in the entire group. So intro to programming, data structures, basically your calc series, and then statistics. You also need to have that 3.2. So again, a B average. Another super popular example is economics. So for econ, students must complete the calculus 1 and 2 plus the micro macro with an overall GPA of a 2.5. And some alternative majors could be economics, managerial economics. And just as a reminder, that if your major is considered selective or impacted, you should do some research to determine the requirements not only for Davis, but every other institution that you're interested in. Another great example of a selective major is the physics and applied physics. So again, we really require students to complete the calculus with the physics series, with the full calculus series along with linear algebra and differential equations. And you also need to have a minimum of a 3.0 in the required prep work. So all of those grades added up also need to equal the 3.0. And lastly, or second to last, our most popular is general psychology. So for this particular area of study, we do require students to complete um, general psychology, right? And then a statistics class. And then you have the option to choose between a heavy bio class, or you would take a different or a lighter biology class plus another class. So usually anthropology tends to be the most common. And the reason there's a difference in regards to what you're aiming for is because the psychology major is offered as a bachelor's of arts and also a bachelor's of science. If you're aiming for the bachelor's of science, then you should be taking the heavier biology class, which is the equivalent or articulated to what we call 2A. If you're doing the bachelor's of arts, then biology 10 plus another science class will suffice. Another key thing to keep in mind is that you need at least a 2.9 across the entire group. So again, all of those grades added up together have to equal at least a 2.9. Another popular major is statistics. We require at least a 3.0 across the entire group. There's a couple tracks in the stats major. I'm not going to list them all here, but I'll drop the link to the catalog so y'all could research a little bit about these areas. And then there is a recommendation depending on the area that you're aiming at. Now, I want to clarify. You don't get to choose the specialization or between a BA or a BS when you're applying for TAG or UC admissions. That decision gets done once you're actually admitted to the institution. So for example, if you end up at Davis, you'll meet with, let's say, Leo, and then during that conversation, it'll bring up that you're aiming towards the BA or the BS, or you want a minor or study abroad or do an internship. All of that happens after the fact. But I think the key piece here is to be mindful of what is required not only for Davis, but also your major and also across all the institutions that you're aiming to apply to. I'm going to go over quickly over the minimum requirements to apply for the UC system. So across the board, regardless if you're applying to Davis or other UCs, we need to have at least the 7 course pattern completed. So the 7 course pattern is basically 2 transferable English, 1 transferable math, and then 4 courses in at least 2 of the 3 subject areas. So 7 classes is not enough to transfer, but out of everything that you take, 7 of these core classes need to show up there. If you've taken AP exams or IB while you were in high school, please tell us about those scores because those scores could also be determined to be equivalent to a class. Usually with a 3 or higher, a score of a 3 or higher for AP, and then a 5 for anything that's high level. The second layer to all of this is that you need to have 60 semester units that are UC transferable. This is super important because I have students who take a whole bunch of classes, but not necessarily everything that you take at your community college is considered UC transferable. So it's super important to just make sure that you're filling out your UC TAP correctly. And I'll have the amazing student workers drop the TAP link and making sure that you keep track of your academic history. And then the third thing we ask for is really the minimum GPA for us to review your application. So the minimum is a 2.4 across the UCs, but specifically for Davis, for most majors, we ask for a 2.8 GPA. But if you're aiming towards something in the College of Engineering, then they have a different GPA. But specifically for LNS, the minimum would be a 2.8 to apply. Now, I want to talk about the transfer admissions guarantee application. So TAG is offered at one of the 6 campuses across the UC system, and Davis is one of them. The TAG application, you could only submit to one institution. And my way of thinking is your TAG application is basically like an anchor, something that if you do qualify for, at least it gives you a preview that you have to maintain certain requirements in order to be admitted. But every decision is conditional, right? So at the end of the day, it's really about do you have the minimum to apply? Second, is your major selective? And if so, what are the requirements you definitely need to pay attention to? And then third, be mindful of the timeline. So I'll drop a couple of those links in a bit. If you need help to figure out whether you're eligible for Davis or any other UC that participates in TAG, then you could check out the tag matrix. It sounds like a movie, but it's not. It's basically a PDF file that overlooks the entire tag process and it gives you a good overview of what is available, what are the minimum requirements, what are the majors that are not available for tag. So specifically at Davis, if you could see on that list, we don't allow tag for computer science, data science, and business, which is going to be our newest major. But every other major is available for tag. But there's certain GPA requirements across the board. So it's always best to figure out where you stand by meeting with an assigned rep, with meeting with your community college counselor to really understand the timeline and also the requirements to make sure that you are going to meet and continue to meet those requirements. Now, I want to go over a couple of resources for you all. So across the board, your transfer center at your community college is like really your go-to place for a lot of these resources. They're going to know who the rep is from the institutions that you are interested in. They're going to understand when we're going to be on campus or for what events or classroom visits. They will also understand if there's been an update to personnel, who's the newest person to be assigned to your community college. Another great resource that you're going to utilize is called assist.org. So assist.org houses the agreements between each institution, for example, each UC and every 116 community colleges. It also houses the CSU agreements, some private schools across the state of California. So be mindful of when you're looking at this articulation agreement is super important because they change every academic year. The 25-26 articulation agreement should be coming out in the next couple weeks in October, or if not early November. For those of you that are interested in applying for the fall of 26 and 27 and beyond. Another great resource that I've highlighted earlier is the UC admissions planner. So this is the third T that I've mentioned. So TAP is your way to kind of keep track of your academic and also allows us, for example, here at Davis and at UC Merced, to do pre-evaluation to determine whether you're eligible to guaranteed admissions to the UC system. And then in your planner, the tag application is housed. So the tag application, and I'll go over the deadlines in a bit. Another great resource here is the AP or IB chart. Your community college will award AP or IB credit differently than what the UC system or the Kelsey system may award, because it is up to the discretion of every institution to give that credit. So just please make sure that you're checking those requirements. And then, as I shared earlier in the previous slide, is the tag matrix. Really just understanding what the requirements are for across the board if you're applying to multiple UCs, but specifically your major. And if you're planning to tag, this is going to be the best resource to review. Now, another great resource is the Transfer Opportunity Program, TOP, which is the department that I work for. What we do is we work with 42 community colleges across the state of California, and we have one-on-one appointments with students. We also have uh, great events throughout the year. So the one that's coming up is Discover UC Davis in February, at the end of February. And then we also have two summer programs and a couple of other events. But I'll have the student workers drop their links. So if you're curious to find out about the top program, I always encourage students to just review. And if your school's not part of our 42 partnering colleges, you could still work with somebody through our Find My Advisor link to figure out who your assigned rep is. Another super important thing to keep in mind is the deadlines. So for most of you that are applying for Fall of 26, I hope that you've started your UC application. You could start it, right? You won't be able to submit it until October 1st, or between October 1st and December 1st would be the application filing period. My recommendation would be to wait to register for your spring of 26 classes, then submit your UC application if you're currently applying. The other thing that happens during this period between now and December 1st is that for UC Davis, we will release our tag decision. So we will notify you whether your tag for the 26 cycle was approved and the conditions that you need to uphold, or if your tag was denied, and those conditions and those reasons will be listed as well. So if there's something that needs to that you were denied for some particular reason, then it gives us time to make adjustments maybe to the spring schedule before you submit your UC application. And then the last thing that out of this long laundry list of the transfer timeline, we'll drop the link in the chat in a bit. But for current applicants, in January, this is going to be the most important thing you're ever going to have to do, which is submit your transfer academic update. This is basically informing us of your fall grades and also your winter or spring classes. So if you've made adjustments or you ended up dropping a class or moving it or ended up enrolling somewhere else, this is the last piece of information that we use to make an admissions decision. So it's super critical that you check your junk and spam folder and check your emails frequently after you've submitted your UC application throughout this filing period. Now, A couple more resources that I'll share with you. I always encourage you to come visit us. Like, look at our campus, go visit the campuses that you're interested in. Most of the UCs have a virtual option for you to check out. You could also come in person. We do also have an admissions blog. One of our amazing student workers that Leo highlighted, Vin, wrote an amazing blog post about what he's doing with his major and the resources he tapped into. Another great opportunity is maybe for parents and family. So just to learn a little bit more about the university and also the resources that we offer here as well. Okay. So it's about 5:30. So let me pull up the Q&A feature real quick to see what questions are coming in. And then I'll invite Leo to jump back in here. Um, so if I'm a bio student, I haven't taken any English compositions yet, I only have space for one more next semester, does it mean that I'm automatically disqualified? So English and math are the first round of classes you should be doing when you get to the community college, right? Or for those of you that are, let's say, aiming for freshman year, Leo's going to advise you to make sure that you take English and math within your first year. I think, Mia, this conversation is a little bit more specific. So click on Find My Advisor and we'll drop the link in the chat so you can connect with the appropriate folks to review your UC TAP, your planner to determine and advise properly. I try to connect with the counselor and I also can seem to make an appointment. Luciana, I'm not really sure who your assigned rep is, but feel free, I'll type my email in the chat for you, and then feel free to reach out. Just want to confirm if you have 90 units by the spring of 26 and you're applying for fall 26, I have 48 units so far, or 84 units so far. So um, if I'm assuming you're mentioning units, right? So again, everything that you take here your community college is not necessarily UC transferable. And then there is also limitations with each of those courses. So for example, you can't take 30 units of PE because we're only going to take 4 units, right? So there's a couple of very specific, I would suggest maybe scheduling that appointment so we could ask those very specific questions about your eligibility. So, how about this one, Leo? So, what's the difference between major prep and really just lower division requirements? Are students supposed to complete the major prep um, right away? Yeah.
Yeah. So from our perspective, major prep, lower division requirements, kind of interchangeable. So I just want to speak to like the requirements once you're here. Uh, your upper division courses, which is what you'd be taking kind of your first quarter as a transfer student, all have prerequisites. So that's the lower div prereq work. That's the major preparation. So aside from any of the selective major information that Fabian shared, you can still do lower division classes for your major, even after you transfer. A lot of our majors have unique lower division classes that just don't exist at a community college or at another four-year institution, so that you could still find yourself completing some lower division classes in your first quarter when you're.
So, I think rule of thumb is really prioritize the coursework if your major selective, along with the minimum requirements. For those that registered, there was a question in here, Leo, that I'll ask you. How did you go about choosing a major? Like, how do you branch out? What are the opportunities or resources that maybe LNS has to help students kind of navigate all the majors that you offer?
Yeah, so we actually have a pretty cool tool campus-wide. It's called the UC Davis Majors Card Sort. So I love that tool because it sort of presents all of the majors to you, a brief description of them. You can just share how much you like it or how much you dislike it. And you just go through the process, takes a couple minutes, and then at the end, it will generate a list of majors for you that fit into the responses that you gave. And that is the best way to find majors that you didn't even know existed. One of my favorite ones that students get out of that one is called Science and Technology Studies. The best way I describe it is if anyone on the call has a science communicator that you love to listen to and learn from, that is the major for it, right? It's about a basic enough understanding, foundational understanding of science and mathematics, but in the space to be able to convey it to society, to see what impact they have in the culture and culture wide. So that's one of the top majors I always love to promote. But yeah, UC Davis Majors Card Sort is one of my favorite ways to help students find different majors.
And I think part of that is, as a community college student, also is like tapping into the resources or the career center at your community college, and also asking these questions to your community college counselor. So I think we put so much stress on ourselves trying to figure out what we want to study. I would approach the conversation more like, what are you curious about? What grades have you earned in all of your academic work? And then pay attention to the coursework that you've earned the best grades in. Or three, reflecting back on your academic history, what are some of the professors that you really enjoyed learning from? And then that could be a starting point to discover, like, okay, maybe there's something here in terms of a major or even a career path that I'm interested in. So definitely utilize those resources. There's a question in here. Mm, 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 mm. Let me pull it up real quick. Oh, can a student double major if the major is impacted? So I'll half answer that question and then I'll pass it over to Leo. It's possible, right? But I think you need to make sure that you have the requirements completed and also you're in good academic standing before you're adding or switching or doing any of that. So I would propose in the UC application or the tag, you only get to choose one major. You don't get to tell or select multiple. Though in the UC application, you do get to select maybe an alternative major that you would be open to. So maybe that could be your opportunity to tell us what you're thinking of doing, right? But I think your biggest priority is what you're applying for and making sure that you have the minimum to apply. And then once you're at Davis, for example, then picking up the conversation with Leo. Would you like to add to that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll pick up the second half of that conversation is once you're here and you have your major, uh, yes, it is possible to double major. The tough thing though is what that double major is. A lot of the impacted majors, using that term from the admission cycle, have entry requirements. So even once you're here, they have additional requirements students must complete before they can even add it as a double major. So making sure that you know your purpose and your goal with adding that second major and what you'll need to do in preparation. GPA wise, that's the most common entry requirement. It's a specific major GPA, a certain series of courses, and a particular minimum grade for each of those courses. But those are all things that you can figure out once you're here. So once you are here and have a college advisor, then you could look into what those entry requirements are for adding a.
Great. There's one, I'll answer this one last question before we pivot over to our next part of our presentation. But a student asked, if I have a low GPA, what are some ways that I could stand out and improve my chances of being accepted? So transfer admissions to the UC or specifically Davis is pretty black and white. Like, do you have the grades? Do you have the GPA? And then the second layer to all of that is what is your major? UC Davis, among other UCs, do not look at your personal insight questions for admissions purposes. And also, we don't look at extracurricular activities. We also don't look at any of the volunteer experience and all of that. The majority of what we look for admissions is really your academic history for transfer. I'll drop this link in the chat, which is our quick reference guide. And if you scroll down to page, let me pull it up real quick. Page 49 of the PDF document, you'll see which UCs actually look at your PIQs for transfer. And then for the rest of you, this is really just the whole understanding of how admissions works at the UC system. So your community college counselors have access to this, or anybody does really, to understand what a process looks like. So with that being said, I know we didn't get to a couple of other questions, so I'll leave those kind of in the chat. But I wanted to thank Leo, and then I also want to invite now our amazing student workers. Hello, hello. Awesome. Where's Caro? There she is. Okay. So, with that being said, Kelly, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us your name, your major, and whether you transferred in, or if you applied as a first-year applicant? And then, Caro, can you do the same?
Yes. Hello, my name is Kelly. My pronouns are she, her. I am double majoring in political science and sociology, and I actually am a transfer student. I transferred from Santa Rosa Junior College, so I applied as a transfer.
Hello, my name is Carolina. I'm currently a psychology major, and I'm also a transfer student. I transferred last year.
Well, thank you both for joining us. I know you should be studying, but I'm super grateful that you're here with us today. I have a question while we wait for the folks to answer, or actually to submit their questions in the Q&A. How did you choose your major? Out of hundreds of options out there, how did you get interested in your particular area of study? Caro, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so psychology is something I've always been interested in. I honestly got an interest for it around middle school, and I went on through high school. I took psychology courses, I took AP psychology, and I still really loved it. So I continued to keep pursuing it in college. And I just always wanted to try to help people in some way or another. I I started with psychology towards the counseling route. Currently, I'm leaning more towards going to law school, but with the same premise of like, wanting to help those in the community.
How about you, Kelly?
Yes, so for me, I always really enjoyed political science because I realized that a lot of policies and a lot of the laws are in our everyday lives, which I found very intriguing and I wanted to be part of that process. Sociology, funny enough, when I was in community college, I took a lot of courses and I found sociology on accident and I fell in love with it. So I recommend that if you're in community college and you have space for electives, that you explore topics or majors that you wouldn't really think that you would like. That's what I did and I fell in love with it and it's now my second major.
Thank you. I guess the biggest piece of advice here is like just be open to just trying something, right? And really just exploring. Another question that I wanted to ask you both. Um, out of uh, a lot of the resources that I'm just curious of what resources you utilized while you were in community college, as you were working towards transferring. So can you highlight some of those? And then the second layer to that is what are some resources or opportunities that you've taken advantage of while you've been at UC Davis? Kelly, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, of course. So actually, my community college was a top um, partnered school, and I actually utilized the one-on-one advising. So funny enough, Fabian was actually my advisor, and he was able to guide me in my transfer process. I also participated in webinars such as this one. I would go to every top Thursday webinar, and I would watch the um, College of Letters in Science or Finding Your Community or Fitting into Davis. So I really recommend that you utilize these resources. And then for the resources that I'm using currently at UC Davis, I also talk with my advisor for my major. So if I have any questions regarding political science or sociology, I like to meet with my major specific counselors. And I also utilize the College of Letters and Science peer advising. So if I ever have a questions about my requirements that I have for overall the college, I go in and I check in with them. So overall, checking in with your counselors is just a really good thing that you should do.
Absolute advice is to please check in. So yes. How about you, Carolina? What are some resources you utilized while at community college, and then what are some that you've taken advantage of here?
Yeah, so in community college, I was involved in the Puente program, which put us in a cohort. It was geared towards helping Latinx Hispanic students get into higher education spaces. So I was part of that, which led me to be a peer mentor for that program in the second year of community college. And then I also utilize EOPS, also could be known as EOP. Here at UC Davis, I'm an EOP, that's our Educational Opportunity Program. Similar, they strive to help students in first generation and or low income students strive for success. What else? Here on campus, I love to go to all the different centers. They all offer a variety of resources. We have El Centro, which is a center for Chicanos and Hispanic and Latinx student success. They offer counseling. It's a study space. You do not have to be Chicano or Latino to be able to go into these spaces. They're open to helping all students. We also have our Student Community Center, which has a lot of different centers, such as the LGBTQI Center, the Cross Cultural Center, our undergraduate research centers, also in that building. They come in handy, especially around exam season. You need a Scantron. You can go in there, swipe your ID, and they can give you a Scantron for free as many times as needed. And then, of course, currently working with the Transfer Opportunity Program. I see it kind of as a resource because I'm open to a lot of more. I find out a lot of resources through this job. I'm connected with a lot of different partners and departments, so it's been really awesome.
Thank you both. I'm answering questions as you're both answering, but also listening. I'm also curious, out of all the institutions that you could have applied to, why did you choose UC Davis? And then how has your time as an Aggie really impacted your life? Kelly?
That's an excellent question. So for me, when I stepped foot in Davis for the first time, I really felt the sense of community and belonging. And a fun fact is that Davis is actually a very transfer-friendly institution. And it is true. I've built so many friendships and communities here at Davis. And that kind of goes into the opportunities that I had. So I actually got to study, not abroad, but I got to study nationally. I got to participate in the University of California, Washington program, where I got to spend the whole quarter. And I was interning at the League of Latin American Citizens, so LULAC. And it was really interesting because I developed both professionally, but also it just the experience as a whole really made me realize that the world is big and there's a lot of opportunities to put yourself out there. And I don't think I would have gotten that support if I didn't come to UC Davis.
Thank you for sharing. And yes, take advantage of that study abroad slash going abroad outside of the state of California opportunities. Carolina, how about yourself? What did you choose Davis out of all these other institutions? And then how has your time as an Aggie really just impacted you so far?
Yeah, so I grew up in Northern California. Hometown is really only about a 40 minute to an hour drive away from Davis. So I knew I wanted to stay close to home, but still far enough to gain some independence. So that was my main driving point. But once visiting the campus, I really fell in love with it. It's very much a college town. Overall, half the population of Davis is students. We have about 40,000 students. So that's half the population of UC Davis, and the whole city is kind of catered towards that student success. You can go into downtown. There's a lot of cafes, a lot of different things going on during orientation week. Downtown Davis likes to participate with different things that they're giving out just to get themselves out there to the students. We also have our Unitrans bus system as well that aids in transportation. It's free for all undergrad students to take, like on days today where it was raining or the last couple of days where it's been raining. I've been utilizing that bus system. You know, it is coming out of our fees, and might as well take advantage. But yeah, just like similar to what Kelly said, the community and the culture here in Davis, it's very welcoming, and there's a big transfer community, and everyone's here is just super nice and friendly. And it's also a great institution focused on research. So many different opportunities you can take advantage of.
Absolutely. And I think it really is up to you to make that college experience for yourself. So really take advantage, really ask questions, ask people, really get involved and take advantage of those opportunities. I want to kind of pivot this conversation a little bit differently to talk about like the vibes. I know that Carolina kind of mentioned it, but how friendly is the campus? Like, was it easy to make friends or maybe go to a club or organization? Like, can you speak more about your day-to-day experience as a student? Kelly?
Yeah, so I would consider myself to be very involved, and Davis just makes it really easy, and you also feel very comfortable doing so. Funny enough, after this meeting, I will be going. I'm president of a club, so I'm president of the Chicanx Latinx Collegiate Association. And as a transfer student, I didn't believe that would be possible, but Davis just really fosters that transfer student culture, and I am able to do that. Additionally, I am also in the academic affairs commissioner through our ASUCD, which is our student government. Again, as a transfer student, I didn't think that was possible, but it was extremely accessible. And it's just been a really great opportunity for me to stay involved like I did in community college, which I also recommend staying involved in community college is never too early to build those connections because whatever you learn in community college, you will bring to UC Davis.
Absolutely. Great advice. How about you, Carolina?
Yeah, I know I touched on it a little bit earlier, but Davis really just has a super welcoming community for transfer students, all types of students. Personally, I am involved in Las Raíces pre-law student association. I remember being super nervous going to that first meeting, like my first fall quarter. Did not know, what the vibes were going to be like. I had just decided I wanted to pursue law, and I went there, and it was super fun. They had conchas, they had a panel from students that used to be in Las Raíces who are currently, in the profession of law or doing some sort of policy work. And it was just super welcoming. One of my friends I met there at that meeting, and we're currently both on the board for that club. So I'm the treasurer for Las Raíces this year. And like Kelly said, it's one of those things where you didn't think it'd be possible as a transfer student because you do hear a lot of that, like, oh, like you don't have enough time. But it's really how you make use of your time, how your experience is going to play out.
100%. And I think you really, really touched on it both. Like it's really up to you to make um, that adjustment. We have a couple more minutes left. Let me ask this other question that came in. Let's see. As a transfer student, how did you find housing and roommates? I'm just curious, did you live on campus, off campus? Did you commute? Can you express a little bit of that experience, Kelly?
Yes, so I actually live in transfer housing, and once you come into UC Davis, you will go ahead and get an email, and you will get offered or more some information about transfer housing. So the transfer housing that I live in is called the Green Out West Village, and I live with other transfer students like myself. The room application process was really easy, and I recommend that you fill out the questionnaire. There is a questionnaire you have to fill out regarding your living preferences, whether you're a night owl, you like to study late, or you like to wake up really early. So, really just make sure that you answer those questions honestly because you'll get paired up with people that have those similar living interests as well. I love my roommates. We're all transfer students. We get along really well, and you're just in a community where everybody has similar living experiences, which makes it really nice to connect with others.
Absolutely. And I think we do offer transfer housing. We do guarantee it for the first year for students. So taking advantage of that opportunity. Carolina, I want to ask you this one. Was your transition from the community college over to Davis smooth, or were you surprised by the rigor? Or did it meet your expectations? Let's just say that.
Yeah, so it was definitely an adjustment going from, the 16-week semester system to the Davis 10-week quarter system. So here at Davis, we have 3 quarters, each are 10 weeks. So you're going from 16 to 10. So it is going to be a little faster pace. I would say it took me around a quarter or so to be adjusted kind of to the rigor and the pace of the classes. But it's really important that you take the time to talk to your professors, introduce yourselves, be like, I'm a transfer student. Do you have any general advice for me in class or what should I be focusing on? All of our professors here offer office hours and they're more than happy to talk to their students and guide them through their classes. Additionally, I love, staying on campus, going to the library, really settling myself, trying to plan everything out. So you definitely need to gain, if you can now, try to practice those time management skills as well as something to organize yourself, whether that's like a Google Calendar or a physical planner. anything like that will help aid in that transition.
Absolutely. And I think you really highlighted here, it's like you need community. Like all of us need someone, right? So whether it's our chosen family or friends from high school or community college or even coworkers, like we really just need to build our community because we can't do this by ourselves. You could try, but ultimately, I'm letting you know that when you put yourself out there and really ask and really engage with people, it makes your college experience that much more enriching and memorable. I want to ask maybe one more question, and I'll ask both of you. If you could give one piece of advice to a future applicant about their PIQs, what would it be? Kelly?
Yeah, so just make sure that you answer them as best as you can. It is your story, it's your lived experiences, and we want to get to know you better. So, what would you want an application reader to know about you? Think of it as like a conversation that you would have with them. You do have very few words, so just really make sure that you include all of the important information. And I do encourage you to also talk to your counselor at your community college at the transfer center. A lot of the times they have PIQ workshops, and I'm sure they're more than happy to help you with your PIQs. Also, looking at another set of eyes is always helpful because there's things that we might miss, and they're able to help you with those edits.
How about you, Carolina?
Yeah, basically echoing everything Kelly just said. Um, you want to tell them everything that you want them to know about you. If you don't write it, they're not going to know. They're not going to assume. So everything that you want them to know, write about in the PAQ. Write about something that you're passionate about, something that you know you can talk about a lot, that you have devoted your time to, and having a set of eyes to look at it again, whether that's maybe an English professor. I know I had my English professor from community college help me with my PIQ because I was really close with her. But like Kelly said, there's usually workshops going on at the transfer centers at your community colleges, or even just talking to an advisor you're super comfortable with at your community college is always a good idea.
And as an admissions rep, let me add my 2 cents here. For the PIQs, specifically for Davis, as I referenced earlier, we don't use them for admissions purposes. But your PIQs, your extracurricular activities, and the rest of your application, the UC application is a scholarship application. So we still encourage you to just tell us who you are, where you come from, what you're planning to do, and then be open to those opportunities. So just ask for feedback, but be cautious to figure out who you're asking, because if you ask way too much for feedback, then you're never going to find the right kind of tool for you or the draft that's really going to work for you. I went ahead and added the YouTube link to our webinars where we add all of our recordings to the top YouTube channel. We did just went over the UC application, the PIQ, so just check that particular webinar out. We have a couple more webinars happening this fall season. So please show up to those. But with that being said, I want to thank our amazing student workers. I want to thank my amazing colleague Leo for all the work that you do and for your opportunity to hang out with us today, this evening. We will be uploading this particular webinar over to our YouTube channel, as I mentioned earlier. But feel free to reach out to your assigned rep. Feel free to stay in touch with us and definitely follow us on our social media channels to get more of an inside look of what it's like to be a student here at UC Davis. Have a great evening, everyone. Take care.